Now, another part of addition and subtraction is how to add and subtract mixed numbers. Now, in between adding and subtracting from our last video and mixed numbers, there is another element which we look at typically, which is called improper fraction. Now, we're not going to look at improper fraction in this course, but we have done so in our year 4 class. So far in year 4, we've covered a lot of fractions. So this is more of a revision class for everyone. If you haven't looked at improper fraction yet at home, then you need to look at improper fraction. Okay. So if you're confident in improper fractions though, this should be a walk in the park for you. So 2 3/4 add 3 4/5. Now there's different ways of doing this. Okay. We can, for addition, we can just add the whole numbers. 2 add 3 is equal to 5. So 2 add 3 equals 5. And so I can just strike these off, and well, I don't need to strike them off, but in my mind I can strike them off, and then I can add the fractions which we're quite comfortable with. 3/4 add 4/5. We know what that is. 3/4 add 4/5. We can do that by using the strategy we looked at last lesson. So 4 and 5, what's the first number that's in the 4 and 5 times table that they share? What's the common number? It's gonna be 20. So something 20ths add something 20ths equals to something 20ths. 3/4 is equal to 15 20ths, because 4 times 5 is 20, 3 times 5 is 15, and 4/5, 5 times 4 is 20, and 4 times 4 is 16. And so I've got 15 20ths add 16 20ths, which is 31 20ths. Now 31 20ths is a bit unusual, right? Why is it unusual? Because it's an improper fraction. What's an improper fraction? It's when the numerator is larger than the denominator. And in this case, we've got 31 20ths. We know, if we talk about halves, we know 2 halves is equal to 1. Or 4/4 is equal to 1, or 10/10 is equal to 1. And so with that idea, we can think about the fact that 31 20ths just means 20 20ths add 20 31 11 20ths. Now I know that you know that 20 20ths is just one whole, and so 31 20ths just means one whole and 11 20ths. And so this is one whole and 11 20ths. And when I add the whole numbers together, I get 5. And so when I add everything together, I'm really adding 5 to 1 and 11 20ths. And therefore, 5 add 1 is 6 and 11 20ths. So 2 3/4 add 3 4/5 is equal to 6 and 11 20ths as my final answer. Does that make sense? Does that work for you? What did we do? Can you think about the steps we took? We added the whole numbers first. So let me do it in order. We've added the whole numbers and we got 5. And then we added the fractions and we got 1 and 11 20ths, right? How did I do that? You can see here, 31 20ths is equal to 1 and 11 20ths. And then I did that together to get 6 and 11 20ths all together. Now with subtraction, it's a bit more challenging. And this is where we have to be really careful. We can't usually, we can sometimes, but it's better not to take that risk, because sometimes you don't see the mistakes you make. For subtraction, I try to tell my students to use the improper fraction method. So that means I'm going to change 15 and a half, into an improper fraction. And then I'm going to change 9 2/3 into an improper fraction. And then I'm going to subtract by trying to get the denominator the same as well. So let's see how I can do that. So I've got 15 and a half. So 15 wholes is how many halves? 15 wholes is 30 halves, and I've got another half here, and so that's 31 halves. So I can think about doing it in different ways. Some of us might do 15 times 2 is 30, and then add the 1. That's going to be 31, and that gives us 31 halves. If you think about it, if you're not sure what I did there, if we think about the number 3.5, right? I can't do 15 and a half, but I can do 3.5. Let's do 3.5. That's 3 1 whole, 2 wholes, 3 wholes, and that's a half. 3.5. If we split the wholes into halves, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 halves, and I've got the extra half here at 7 halves. So 3.5 is equal to 7 halves, right? 3 times the 2 is 6 plus the 1 is 7, and that's another way of thinking about how to get a mixed number into a improper fraction. So 3.5 is 7 halves, and we can then think about the fact that 15.5 must be 31 halves. Okay, 31 halves. Take away 9 wholes in terms of thirds. 9 times 3, 9, 18, 27, plus a 2, 27, 28, 29. I've got 29 thirds. Okay, so I've got 31 halves, take away 29 thirds. My denominators are different. They are not the same, so I can't just subtract straight away. I need to make them the same. So 2 and 3, what's the first number in the 2 times table and 3 times table? 2, 4, 6. 6, right? So I'm going to make this an equivalent fraction out of 6, and this an equivalent fraction out of 6, and then I can subtract and get my final answer, hopefully, right? Let's see if this works. 31 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6. So I'm going to multiply my numerator by 3. 31 times 3 is going to be 30, 60, 93. 93 6 is equivalent to 31 halves. And then I know 29 over 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So I want to do 29 times 2. 30 times 2 is 60. So 29 times 2 must be 58. And so I've got 93 6 take away 58 6. If I think of that as 66, then I can take that 60 from the 93, that's 33 left, but then I have to add the 2 back on, that's 35. So I've got 35 6 as my answer. Now 35 6 is a bit unusual, right? What's unusual about it? It's an improper fraction again, right? So we're going to have to make that improper fraction into a mixed number. With fraction questions, they don't normally want you, unless they say leave it as an improper fraction, they want you to actually change your answer into a mixed number instead of leaving it as an improper fraction. So I know 6 is 1 whole. I've got 35 lots of 6. 6 is 1 whole. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Okay, I can have 5 wholes here because 36 is 5 wholes, and I'll have 5 6 remaining. So my answer here is 5 and 5 6. Bit challenging, right? Now, if you're in our tuition groups for next year, if you haven't fully understood that, we're going to go through it in more detail next year. We're going to spend a bit more time on it next year as well. And if you're just joining us, especially those who've already with us, I think you probably find this not too challenging, but something more of a revision. But if you do find it challenging, don't worry. We're going to go through it next year as well. So have a go at the questions below and let me know how it goes.